everyone's going to vote for their own best interest. They're only going to try to convince you to vote for their best interest.
Philosophies and what's going on. At the end of the day, do you really think our government is going to look at our tweets, what we say on Instagram, and really be like, he has a really good point, I'm going to change this rule? No.
People tell me that one's wrong, right? Yeah. And then all the politicians are just saying, they're wrong, I'm right. No, I'm right, they're wrong.
That's a liar, you're a liar.
Yeah.
Always, I love my mom. I love my mom.
Here we go.
I love you.
But we'll assume that those other group of people that you're going to vote to help are going to in turn turn around and vote to help you.
If you have it in you to go rampage on Twitter or get in arguments with people online, you need to go vote.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Men the Podcast, where we empower your narrative. And we're joined with here by great special guest here, Jared Williams. Figure new studio, might as well get new person in here too to talk about some fun things going on, some good topics that we have. But before we begin, take care of some of the housekeeping stuff. Go ahead, like and subscribe. Check out all of our other videos. You may recognize Jared, because season 3, we actually did interview Jared. So if you guys want to go check that video out, it was a great interview. Definitely go back, show that video some love. You had a lot to say on there. I enjoyed it. Man.
That was a time of my life where I was really, and I still am, really big in my fitness, just kind of refining myself. So now I'm kind of in a place where I've been an avid fan of the podcast. You guys have been really good friends of mine, and I just felt like I could chime in and really bring a lot of value to it and see where you guys are going with it. So
yeah, absolutely. And that's what we've been preaching the whole time, is just building that community. So there's going to be familiar faces in the podcast brand, but with that being said, we have no problem extending that out and bringing new people on with different ideas and different viewpoints, because that overall, it's what's going to grow all of us as
100%.
people, and then of course for the channel and bring actual value to people.
100%. And I feel like where the brand is going is that you guys have been touching so many people in just so many different ways, where at the end of the day, it's just been a slow grind, and I've seen the slow grind and the work that you guys have been putting in. So just to kind of even be a part of that is just even appreciative that you guys even thought that I could even do that for you guys. So really means a lot.
Absolutely. Well, let's go ahead and jump right in, because we can talk for hours on our own.
Have a bromance.
Yeah, a little bromance right there. But first topic we want to address here, we want to talk about voting. At the time of recording, when this is going to be released, this is going to be right before the actual official election for 2024. There's been a lot, and I mean a lot, of information going on. It seems like every single day it's groundbreaking news going on here. So there's two things I do want to point out before we dive right into it, is that one, we are not a political channel. These are just our opinions. You're more than welcome to comment, dispute, ask more questions, get more of an opinion out. I'm never going to be in the state where it's like, this is what you should believe in, this is what you shouldn't believe in. We are not endorsed. We have zero endorsements, zero money. We're literally just sitting here giving our opinion on this particular topic. And then the second thing is that to extend this out, I want to be as unbiased as possible. So we're not even going to give you our political affiliations or mention along the fact of who we're leaning to vote for or anything. We want to keep it as unbiased and as neutral as possible, because that is something that I feel like that we're missing in this political climate, is unbiased opinion to actually allow you, the viewer, to think and actually come up with your own opinions and your own thoughts on what's going to be the best for you.
And I think a part of that is, too, to kind of chime off what you're saying, is that you need to do your own research, and you need to figure out what is actually going on, because we live in a society where it's media overload. You're always going to be in a situation where someone's going to see a viewpoint on something one person says and somebody else says. Do your own research and figure out what one actually happened, and aside from your friends, family, try to figure out, how do you really feel about that situation and what's going on? Because it's very easy, especially with political views, that when you grow up in society, the first people that you're going to hear from is your parents. Those are going to be the ones that are going to tell you probably what they think and what they feel. And of course, naturally, as you're growing up and you're being raised in that demographic, it's easy to feel, okay, this is what I should think, this is what I should be doing. But as you get older, your situation from your parents may be completely different. Your upbringing after you leave the nest is going to be different, and you may see things a different way. So that's why I feel like you need to do that research. You need to understand what's going on in society and also how that's going to impact you. And that's 100% your choice and what you think. And sometimes you're going to be in a situation where you're going to think differently from your parents.
Absolutely. So to actually piggyback off of that and go into the first question, I think one word or phrase that you used in there was, you said media overload. I think that's exactly what it is. Yes. So my question is going to evolve around people who end up opting out and actually not voting in elections. And part of that is what you said, this media overload. There's a lot of people, especially young people our age in our 20s and stuff, that are first-time voters, that are actually opting out and not voting. And that's some of the stuff that you do here, is that there's media overload. Everything feels like a wrong answer. I'm being pulled every which way. I just don't want to do it.
Yes.
So I just don't want to be part of it. So I kind of want to get your thoughts on what's kind of your mindset, or even what's your sales pitch to people listening to this to say, hey, you know, however you may feel, voting does matter, and this is why you should carry out and actually go vote in elections.
Right. And I feel like that kind of takes back to when I first turned 18. The first thing my mom told me was like, we need to set you up to go vote. And I was to a point where I was super excited to do that. I'm like, this is a constitutional right that I get to really like utilize. I can do that. For years, especially in the Black community, we were disbarred from voting for so long, to where I really took pride in being able to feel like I can go do this. I can finally feel like that matters. But over time, as things have maybe not gone the way that I agree, or seen so many things, I can't even lie to you that was a part of that society that kind of shied away from it, because you hear so many things, you hear so many different viewpoints. It's kind of really hard to cloud the judgment when you want to be away from it. So to a certain extent, I do understand why people want to shy away from that. But at the same time, we need to get out of this mindset, in my opinion, where people feel, well, my vote doesn't matter, or this happened, that happened, where I would rather you go vote and then you feel like it's going towards something. Then there's a lot of people that you see on the internet that have so many opinions about certain situations, but 9 times out of 10, they're not voting. So then at that point is, you're just kind of preaching to a choir and nothing's getting done. So what do you expect, that people are going to look at your Twitter and be like, oh, wow, he has a point, I'm going to make a change? No, the way it's set up right now is you need to go into the polls and vote for certain things that you do believe in, if that is what is that important to you.
Yeah, for sure. And I was looking at an article that I was reading about it, because I wanted to brush up on my knowledge before we got in here. And from the midterm elections and then the overall elections, so 2018, 2020, 2022, they did the poll of all of that. 30% of eligible voters didn't vote in any of those 3 elections, right? 30%. So if you think about that, right? Because everyone says that same thing. Is like, well, my vote doesn't matter. I'm just one vote. Or my state has always been voted this way, or my city's always voted this way. It doesn't matter, right? That one person now turned into 30% of the population. That's big enough for it to be its own party of just people who decide to not vote. And the only reason those people decide to not vote a lot of the times is that same singular mindset, where it's just, my one vote doesn't matter, so I just won't do it.
Right. And it kind of comes back to the concept of kind of what I was saying before. Everybody wants to be a social media warrior. Everyone wants to be a guru, a philanthropist, have all these philosophies on what's going on. At the end of the day, do you really think our government is going to look at our tweets, what we say on Instagram, and really be like, he has a really good point, I'm going to change this rule? No. No. Like, regardless of what you think of what's going on, I really do hold that to my heart, that if you have it in you to go rampage on Twitter or get in arguments with people online, you need to go vote. And if you're not going to do that, then I don't get what you expect is going to happen. You're really just going to sit and sulk and really sit in this place of, just being angry all the time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, for sure. And I would tell everyone, because one thing we stress on this podcast is accountability. So I don't like it when people have all the complaints in the world but don't have solutions
at all.
and that's what it comes down when I think of voting. And that's my reason why, is that if I have this many opinions about what's going on and what needs to be done, and then I decide not to vote, then who am I to go back out there and continue to insult and talk about the bad things that are going on? And I could be right. Like the things that I'm saying, I could even be right on that. But when given the opportunity to actually do something about it, I did nothing about it. And that's one of the biggest advice that I ever gotten when it came down to voting, because I think everyone gets to that point where it's like, I don't know if I want to do it or not, and all that stuff, right? And I think the second biggest thing on why a lot of people choose not to vote is just comes down to responsibility.
Yes.
People understand whether they say it matters or not. A lot of people recognize there is a level of responsibility where it comes to voting. And if you never voted before, when you go in there, you realize it's not a one question, and you turn it in. There's like 30 people you're voting for, right? So that responsibility that is thrown on you to be like, okay, I can't just do a checkerboard answer, click, do C every time, like it's a math test or something like that. Like, these are real people, these are real policies, these are real things that are going to affect my community. And a lot of people just don't want to take on that responsibility, so it just feels better to just not be involved, so then you don't have the burden of accountability for it.
And we live in a society now too, dude, where I feel like everything is very swarmed around instant gratification, where everything is just so at an instant. I just want to do this, get done, call it a day, and move on. Voting takes time, dude. Like, sometimes you got to get up early to get to the polls, be sitting in line for an hour, hour and a half, sometimes even 2 hours just to do that, write these questions. That's going to take time, kind of like what you were saying. And then you kind of have to go about your business. So it's time consuming. And I feel like with that instant gratification, people don't want to take time to really do things like that, because it makes them think on a different realm of things, something that they may not care about in their eyes, or what they may not worry about. But certain things like that what kind of we were saying is, if you're that passionate about some of these things, like I even catch myself where I will be in an argument or a conversation with someone and I feel that raw emotion, power. Like, I feel like this is what I really believe in. If I can take that time to do it, why not go vote about these matters and really like want to see change be implemented? Now, again, we're not telling people what they should be feeling or what they should do. And so I could care less, respectfully, about anybody's theories and what they think about what happens in the polls or anything like that. If you're that passionate about something, do something about it. Don't just sit there, call it a day, yell these things, and then you just are just going to sit home, be mad, and be angry at the world that have this victim mentality or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And to transfer this conversation a little bit, I kind of want to get your take on this. When we come to undecided voters, so there's a lot of people who actually, okay, I did register, but like, now what? I don't know who to vote for. I don't know what to do, where to get the information from. Who do I believe? I don't know. I go to one media site, and then everyone tells me that it's wrong. And then I go to another media site, and then other people tell me that one's wrong, right? Yeah. And then all the politicians are just saying, they're wrong, I'm right. No, I'm right, they're wrong.
That's a liar, you're a liar.
Yeah. So for the undecided voter, what would be some advice that you would give them to say, like, this could help you formulate what your decision is, no matter what you end up deciding, right?
Again, that's a good question, because I am, like, we hold each other accountable. I hold myself accountable to that. I'm in a place too where I feel like sometimes I'm in that middle where I may not agree with both sides. There's some things where I see those flaws in a lot of things, where you're put in that middle of like, I don't want to go this way because I don't believe that, but I also don't believe that. And the advice I would give to somebody is, look at the demographic you're in now. Look at the job you're in now. Look at the things around you in your neighborhood. When you're taking a drive, go to the park, see how things are. Look at the people that you surround yourself with, and really get a glimpse of what is your day-to-day. And when you do that, that alone will help you along to find things that are in your similar interests, and that's going to be applicable to when you're choosing what candidate you want to vote for, because a lot of that's going to matter in like how you see things and how you're going to operate and go things. Where I know that people don't really like want to take the time to do that, but at the same time, that's going to help you, because I've heard instances where people may feel a certain way until they think about their day to day and how they really operate, and they're like, "Oh well, I normally go this way, but now I feel more like I'm aligning in this way." But also to answer that, and I'm going to tell everybody this: don't listen to what other people say. And unfortunately, if you're starting to get to a point where you're between 22 and 28, 29, always, again, I love my mom. I love my
Here we
mom.
go.
I love you. But when it comes to certain political views, don't always listen to your parents, because how they grew up and how you're coming in as a young woman or as a young man, it's 9 times out of 10 very different. Look at where you're at, and then you, from that point, can figure out what's the best situation for you.
This might not be the most correct thing to say, but it is the very honest piece of advice that I can give you, is that when you go to vote or try to figure out who you want to vote for and stuff, think of your own best interest. Honestly, think of what's in your own best interest. And I'm going to tell you why. The reason why you should think in your own best interest is because if you decide not to, you don't just assume that those other group of people that you're going to vote to help are going to in turn around and vote to help you.
Right.
Everyone's going to vote for their own best interest, and they're only going to try to convince you to vote for their best interest.
100%.
It doesn't go vice versa. And I'll give you an example. So let's say if there's two politicians, one wants to do something in infrastructure, put a lot of money into it, and then one wants to do something in retirement, right? Mm-hmm. So the humane thing is like, oh, I have grandparents and older parents and stuff, so I can understand why the retirement one would be really good. And I think they're all going to vote for that. They're asking me to vote for that, right? On the infrastructure side, I work in engineering. So I'm like, if I do the infrastructure side, that's going to guarantee me job security for pretty much the rest of my career. And that is a right now thing that benefits me. It's in my best interest. Then 40, 50 years down the line, you would have to hope that whatever you voted for in retirement would still be there for you, right? So in that particular situation, and again, this is my opinion on that, but vote in what's going to help you out the most in that particular situation. For me, I would do the infrastructure. People are going to convince you that that's a bad thing. It was like I said earlier, don't complain about what's going on in the world, and then when given the opportunity to change it, you don't do anything. Mm-hmm. And that's the same thing with people telling you who to vote for and who not to vote for.
100%.
If there's something that's very important to you and just to you, and that's why you're voting for that person, I agree with that 1,000% more than you saying, I'm just going to do what's best for all these groups of people that are around me telling me what to do.
Right. And I feel like with voting too, and this kind of goes back to, I believe this would have been 2020 election, when Joe Biden went on the Breakfast Club and he said, if you don't vote for me, you are not black. And I feel like that kind of has always resonated with me over the years, and how, not saying all, but a good amount of politicians probably think. They probably think that if you're white and have very wealthy, you're probably going to vote Republican. Or if you're black, you're probably going to vote Democrat. And I feel in a way too that I hope at some point in society we can get out of those realms where we think that way, because that allows you, kind of what you said, that looking your own demographic, it's going to be different than somebody else in a different demographic. Like how you are in your life right now as an engineer is going to probably be different than maybe like your cousin that may work a different job in law. So your ideologies, your viewpoints are going to be different in that. So you shouldn't be held down to, and I don't want people to be held down either too, where automatically just because you think, oh, I'm African American, I need to solely vote for that Republican. Or even if you are a rich Caucasian male, you don't always have to align yourself with one certain party if you don't agree with certain those things. So hopefully if we can get out of those demographics too, I feel like we can align ourselves to have those real authentic conversations of how society that we want to be a part of should operate. And I feel like a part of that is getting out of those demographics.